진행을 하도록 하겠습니다. 근데 저는 KU2020 포럼 진행을 맡은 연구기획본부장 김영찬입니다. 반갑습니다. 먼저 그 KU2020 포럼에 참석해 주신 우리 총장님을 비롯해서 교무위원님, 그다음에 교수님, 그다음에 관련 대학원생 여러분 감사드립니다. 그리고 환영합니다. 오늘은 스테판 렌치 사장님을 모셨는데요. 제가 간단하게 포럼 안내 드리고 시작하도록 하겠습니다. KU2020 포럼은 저희가 총장님께서 부총장님이실 때 2012년부터 시작을 했습니다. 그래서 이번에 이제 27회째를 맡게 됐습니다. 그래서 시작할 때 기본적인 그 취지는 여러 학문 분야에 융합하고 소통할 수 있는 장을 만들어 보자 하는 취지로 만들어졌고요. 그리고 크게 보면 타겟팅하는 거는 이공대학, 단과대학이 2020년까지 세계 20위 대학에 들어가는 거를 목표로 이렇게 세워졌고, 지금도 키오스 평가나 이런 데서 많이 지금 그 순위가 향상이 되고 있고요. 이런 방향을 향해 가고 있다고 생각합니다. 오늘 포럼은 간략하게 30분 정도 그 강연 듣고 15분 정도 그 질문하는 순서로 진행을 하도록 하겠습니다. 그런데 오늘 이제 강연해 주실 분이 외국 분이시기 때문에 제가 지금부터는 영어로 진행을 하도록 하겠습니다. 그래서 나중에 질문이나 이런 거 다 영어로 진행하는 거 혹시 불편하시더라도 만약에 번역이 필요하시면 제가 통역을 하든지 해서 진행하도록 하겠습니다. From now on, I'm going to speak in English because you may not understand the Korean. Today's speaker is the President and CEO Stefan Rentsch from the TubeSud, Korea. And let me briefly introduce his profile. He graduated from the Industrial Engineering University of Karlsruhe. Is it correct? And after graduation, he worked at several startup companies. He worked as a CFO at Siemens spin-off, managing director of US-German venture capital, and strategy consultant at Prince Waterhouse Coopers. After that, he joined the TubeSud back in 2007, and he had 9 years in international work experience with TubeSud as senior project manager, mergers and acquisitions, and head of e-mobility, CEO TubeSud battery testing, global business area manager EV battery testing at TubeSud, and he's currently work as a president and CEO of TubeSud Korea back in since 2013. Please welcome President Rentsch.
Get it out. Ayunghamshimnika. Dear President Yom, dear distinguished professors and guests, it's a real big honor for me to be here. I know this forum is a very special one. This is a very special university in Korea, and I'm also a little bit nervous now to speak to you. But I think it's also a great pleasure in my heart to be here, because what you're doing is actually also what we are doing or trying to do at TubeSud Korea or at our headquarters. We try to innovate, we try to change, and we try to be part of the future. And to be that, I think we have to look into ourselves, and we have to look also around us what's happening to better understand what we can do in order to be part of the future. And this is a funny picture, I hope. You can see we had a lot of pleasure. This was last year. And this was actually our core group for business development. And why did we do this? Of course, we like to do team buildings, but it's not only about team buildings, it's also pioneering, exploring something together, which brings your mind to a level where you're more open and more ready to go the next step in something which is kind of daring. I mean, nobody knew that we would not fall out of the boat or not. We saw some people before us that did fall out of the boat. Thanks God we didn't, and we really enjoyed that day. And I think we will continue with similar activities in the future because they bond and they create the right mindset. So today I'm going to speak to you about dealing with disruptive change and innovation. I picked the word disruptive. You can also skip it. But sometimes change and innovations can be disruptive. That means that they become threatening to you. They become so strong and powerful that you really have to think, what can I do to survive? And I will show you some of the examples of our history and also of the innovation today that could pose a threat to our core business of TÜV Süd at the moment, okay? So, quick introduction to myself beyond my CV career, okay? I was born in 1970 in southern Germany. I've been living here for 3 years. Now, since 3 months, we are 3. So that's a wonderful present from God to us. Little daughter Matilda. Every day, it's a real pleasure to see her. I've studied, as you heard before, in the UK, in Germany, in the US, and now since 3 years in Korea. I have a Turkish wife, yeah, so my mother's Hungarian, so I'm quite international, I think, from my roots already. I did work at startup companies and I really enjoyed doing that, but it's also a tough environment. And you probably know about this. And I joined TÜV Süd in 2007 actually after having had enough from startup businesses and all the troubles that you experience in startups, because it's a very unsteady business field. If you're not Google, if you're not Apple, in their early days and you have so much success, it can be very, very challenging. And sometimes you long for stability and some peace of mind. My hobbies include hiking, golfing and cooking. I love kimchi jjigae, mandu, jeogui and other good Korean dishes. I really like your food here, and that is helping also to love Korea, just not only the people but also the nature and hiking. Golfing anyway is probably one of the best countries in the world to play golf if it was not so expensive. Okay. So maybe before I jump into the slides, I think I'm going to tell you a little bit about TÜV Süd, what we do, where we come from. We will look into why we think there is a need for change, yeah? That you understand a little bit about the pressure situation that we are facing. Then we definitely look at what we do here in Korea and what has triggered us to rethink what we are doing and how we are doing it. There are quite a few challenges on the way, and then we show you a little bit about the results and what we think could be next steps. Okay. So TÜV Süd. TÜV Süd. TÜV stands for Technischer Überwachungsverein Süd. For those of you that speak German. The English is Technical Inspection Associations in the South, okay? This company was created through multiple mergers of similar TÜV companies in southern Germany. So now it's basically called TÜV Süd. There is a brother, so to speak, although pure competitor, it's called TÜV Rheinland. Yeah? And then there's one organization called TÜV Nord. So we all come from the same heritage, but we are all now full competitors in the market, and many people confuse us because they just see TÜV and they think that's one company. And that happens even in Germany until to this date. Yeah? So nobody really understands that there are 3 different large organizations. Our principles since the early days has been protecting people, property, and the environment against the adverse effects of technology. And I think this is true today and gives us always the vision for the future, what we want to do. And the services center is testing, inspection and certification. I think some of you may have heard the expression TIC market. Yeah? That stands for TIC, TIC market. Yeah? And it's quite a large market worldwide. And there are some very, very large global players. We are, I think, the fast followers, hopefully. Yeah? We are not at the top. We are currently number 6 or 7 position in the world market. But in some areas we are leading, and that's important. We have now this year our 150 years of anniversary. So similar to you, we have a long history. And we are currently celebrating this event globally, and there will be a big ceremony in June in Germany in the headquarters. A little bit about the company information. We have about 800 locations today worldwide. Last year we had 2.2 billion euros in revenue. And about 22,000 people, and through acquisitions, end of last year we acquired the Spanish company Artesae. You saw that I was a board member there. It took us almost 10 years to convince the owner to sell to us and to find the right price. But now we are probably around 24,000 already this year. And profit-wise, we had a stable incline of our profits. I think this line shows where we want to be because this is not as steep as you can see, but I think we have potential to go that way, certainly in some areas. Our headquarters is in Munich, southern Germany, very famous for the Oktoberfest, probably you know, and very beautiful area also for skiing, hiking and so on. And we have regional headquarters around the globe. We have Brazil, North America, which is near the Boston area, UK. This is Prague. We have an Eastern European headquarter there. We have one in Dubai, in India. Our Asia Pacific headquarters is in Singapore. So my boss sits there. He's a board member in Munich. He's the only one that's actually located outside of Germany. Yeah. And I think that's very good to have a board member outside of the headquarters because many things will happen in this area in the future, and I think it needs a lot of attention. And of course we have Shanghai, now here's Seoul, and Tokyo as headquarters for very important markets for us. The three large segments that we serve in is mobility, certification, any kind of product certification you can think of. If you just look at an electronics product on the back side, you see a lot of stamps on there. Maybe some of us, maybe from UL. That kind of work we do. We do this also in the industry segments when the products become very, very large, up to industrial complexes. And we do the mobility segment. Periodical car inspection is one of our core services, and you have that kind of service also in Korea, but in a slightly different way. Just a few words on TÜV here in Korea. We have 3 offices and 2 labs. We have now 22 years of experience in Korea, so also not brand new to the market. About 450 employees and services in many various fields. I think one of the most interesting ones are the areas of functional safety, and this is probably one of the core disciplines which can explore smart technologies and systems in the future, because we need to think about systems when they interconnect and what kind of issues can come up when things are cooperating with each other. What happens if one system fails? So that's a very interesting area, and I will talk about this later a little bit. So why change? Let's look at our history. Actually, the foundation was triggered by the advent of a breakthrough technology. It was the steam engine. And you can see in the background a picture of what can happen if things go wrong. After many years of operations, I think it was here after 9 years, the big steam boiler exploded and leaving about 27 people dead. This was in England in April 15th, 1862. So before our foundation actually. But these events happened everywhere in the world where industrialization and the Industrial Revolution was taking place. And this triggered basically that some people, investors, they didn't want to lose their factories. People were complaining about having the risk to lose their life or at least get severely injured. And that brought up associations all over Germany at the time, also in England, to do something. To check the installations and to do regular inspections. And until today, the steam boiler inspection is one of our core products that we do. Another interesting invention, shortly after our foundation was actually that somebody, Mr. Otis here in America, brought up a new innovation for elevators. And he had like a mechanism to prevent that elevator from falling down. You can see these elements here. And that actually had more acceptance for elevators now going forward because people didn't fear to go into them anymore. And that created a full new spectrum. Skyscrapers were in the boom, especially in New York City and other North American cities. But of course, with every new technologies, there's also risks related, and there were accidents. And this triggered another service which came up, that elevator inspections became one of our core competencies and products in Europe, especially in Germany, where many years our focus was on. I mean, before the 1990s, TÜV Süd was basically no international company. It was completely focused on the German market only. Another breakthrough technology followed the automobile, and soon the demand for increased road safety became apparent, that the cars driving on the roads at high speeds had to be somehow inspected. And that brought up the service of periodic car inspection in Germany and all over Europe. Actually something that is missing in some parts of the USA. That's why you see sometimes cars there that you didn't want to see there driving. So our past actually has been triggered, the past success, by innovation and new technologies. And of course the associated risks with them. Until today there are some of our main core products, as you can see: elevator testing, pressure equipment testing, and vehicle inspection. And there are services that are performed periodically. And I'm highlighting this because we come to this later. Periodically means fixed intervals, almost like a bit stubborn. Every year you have to do it, or every 2 years. There's no smartness involved. It just says this is a good interval. So who knows whether this is a good interval or not. And it's predominantly people-based. That means some technology is used, but it's mainly the person, the inspector, that does the job. And now the big question is, how will this be influenced by the arrival of the Internet of Things, the second digital revolution? Because maybe some of the things can be done in a different way, more smartly and with less people. So let's look at the current trends that we can see. And one of them is that sensors are everywhere. Sensors, video cameras, and all of this are installed everywhere. Even today, most of our cars are equipped fully with sensors that collect 24 hours data and store them in some device, or they even transmit it over to a cloud. Big data analytics, actually one of the startups I was working in a couple of years ago, a Siemens spin-off. At the time it was maybe a little bit early, but still today now it's a big hype topic, big data analytics. And even at the time when we started working on this, it means there's a lot of know-how in big data. When you start analyzing, it's just not so easy to do it. But with smart algorithms, we just saw the Go player lose against the machine in Korea. You can see that they become very, very powerful. And suddenly you find insights and information that you could not discover before. That makes smart maintenance and predictive maintenance surveillance applications possible now to a commercial level, that you can apply them for any kind of products. And systems get very much interlinked. Smart building management solutions, for example, could in the future make an automatic surveillance of your elevators. You just have to put the right sensors in, and that means, is there really a need for a yearly inspection? Or isn't the 24-hour surveillance a better way of looking into this? So I think we have some serious threats there for our classical businesses that should make us think. Another interesting area, I talked to Professor Yom before, is the emergence of smart technologies in the healthcare sector. I think this is one of the sectors which Samsung Electronics and other companies are pushing into, because we can now use, for example, patient data and find patterns in this patient data that can help us to predict what to do with these patients better than if you're just a doctor with your own know-how, because you're using the know-how of multiple sources that is beyond what your capability is to learn. And these artificial applications with intelligence and data security issues, they're coming to the market, but the question is, how do we certify such a new complex system? Before, we just checked for electricity safety. So it was a very one-dimensional approach to certifying a product, but now we have to understand the algorithms, the data safety components, and much more. What if one system fails when they're interlinked? What will it do to the product? Because in the end, all we want is basically increased safety, not decreased safety from the products that come to the market. And this brings us into a position where we think the standards and certification procedures that we have today, I actually know they are at their limits. So we need to think about how can we combine this in the future to make this all work. This is typical for innovation anyway. When I started in e-mobility, we saw the electric car coming, and there was no certification procedure for the battery, because everybody expected a tank with gasoline to be tested instead of a battery system. And the regulation came much later than the products, which always is a challenge in innovation. It's just the way it is. So what can we do? We can, of course, wait and see. That many companies and organizations do that, and it's just because we like to stay where we are, we don't want to move. But it's dangerous, especially when others are doing something that you should have also be doing, and I think that's to take actions. And as you could see, I like to do some also outdoor experiences with actions. So I think let's assume we're all on the same page, that we want to do something, that we don't want to wait and see and be surprised by changes. But we ask our questions, what can we do? Where can businesses find answers to questions that occupy us? And I think one really good way is to learn from the best. Just look at some companies, for example, for us, that have done much better in terms of innovation and finding new answers. We should not forget to look at ourselves. I think this is a very important element, because one of the key sentences here is to evaluate your own readiness for innovation and change. Because if you do underestimate your own, let's say, slowness or not readiness for change, and you want to, climb Mount Everest, but you're actually not trained to do it, you will badly fail. So you better understand what are your own limitations, and then you better work on your, overcoming these limitations before setting your targets too high. And of course we can team up, and I think this is one of the areas that I would like to explore afterwards, and also maybe in the discussions with you. How can we collaborate to find solutions and new ways to overcome our issues? And I think we should also team up with technology partners, maybe some other companies that have similar issues, so that we share our own thoughts, and we exchange what we can do better, what we have learned, so we don't do all the same mistakes again. I like Google because when I was still at university, I did a research project on artificial intelligence and data crawling at the time, and one of my professors just came back from California and said, "Oh, I've just met some people. They call themselves Google, and they have very interesting technology." And at the time, I just kept this name in my mind. Soon, actually, we could use Google search engines on the web, and then from that day on, I always used their search engine. That was the really early days. They were not floated yet. All they did was search engine technology. Of course, we know that they have come much further now, and they're actually dominating many, many new areas. Especially dangerous for the German industry is the car autonomous driving that they are developing. But I think when you look at some of their cultural messages that we have, you know, they favor ability over experience. Okay, that means you have 20 years of background, you know, you're a senior person. That doesn't matter to Google so much as your knowledge and your ability to do something. Yeah? And they strive to maintain a startup culture, the spirit of openness, of readiness to share ideas and opinions without any hustle. So no fear for sharing ideas. Yeah? And anybody at Google can actually ask their founders or their CEO questions. That's very impressive. I don't think that many companies can say that they are able to do that. And they have offices designed and cafes to actually encourage interaction, communication, and to meet people. You know, even if it's on private things, I think it's just about you know, getting this network going. And one of the other aspects they have done is 20% of their time a Google employee can use on anything they want, you know, finding some new ways, pioneering something new. And I think that's very impressive, because most companies will try to control, wow, you're not working on your main job, you know, you're wasting our money and time. And I think this freedom allows them to be different than many other companies. And the big question for us here is, how do we compare to such a culture, you know? Do we have the same? Can we say that we are doing the same, or are we quite different from that? And the next question that comes up, is our culture maybe an obstacle in the way to be as innovative and agile as a company like Google? So maybe to ask you a question, who do you think that culture is important for innovation and agility? Just hands up, who thinks it's important? Okay, not so many. Interesting. Okay. Let's go on. Let's look at another example which I think is important, and this comes from Apple, but it could be from any other leading technology company. You know, not everything works. We have to accept failure. It's part of our game for innovation and moving on. And I know that in Germany we have a problem with failures. Yeah? If you fail, you're thought to be, you know, you're a loser. You can't do anything right. In America, they say, okay, this didn't work. Newton was a complete flop. Yeah? It didn't make it very far. It had kind of this writing technology which would never really understand what you were writing. I tried this product and I didn't like it. But what they've done is basically they have taken this technology which didn't work and converted it later or sooner or later into this Apple iPad technology. And this is really a product that everybody likes. Yeah? And many people have copied. So the big story here is, don't fear failure, but actually embrace it. Don't punish it, but take the lessons learned out of it and try again. And as I said, even in our company in TÜV Süd, I was lucky enough that the battery testing business that I started was successful. But I had a colleague who was working on embedded systems, and he failed, okay, with his system, setting up something which was actually much more strategically to me important than my little battery testing startup. But he failed, I was succeeding, I was, you know, hyped, and he basically left the company. What a tragedy, because he was an intelligent person, he tried, okay, he didn't try everything the right way, but the next time he would have probably done a much better job. But he was not given this chance. And so we lost all the know-how, and basically we are still at the situation that we have to do something about this technology. So, challenges at TÜV Süd Korea. When I arrived, we did a few things to see where we are. As I said, we have to look at ourselves. Are we ready for change? What's hindering us to be more successful? So we conducted management and town hall meetings. That's very classic, sorry. We did surveys. I think that was a very interesting part, because in the Korean culture, people don't like to speak up, especially when they are in a large group. They rather hide their opinion. So what we did was a anonymous survey, which helped us to go beyond what we normally see and experience. So we found out much more insights into the situation. The same was actually true with one-on-ones. I, as a CEO, had randomly picked employees for lunch. Yeah? We just did basically a random lottery, and I was meeting anybody, from a coordinator, assistant, up to the most senior engineer. And that really helped me also to get more insights, also to get to know the people. But I think I learned much more than if I asked them in their group in their departments. They would not speak up. And we did then, of course, workshops, because we wanted to go beyond what we already found out and really work together. And that was actually quite difficult. Again, here, because you bring people together, there's normally only one person that speaks, and that was me. So, what did we find in 2013? I mean, this was our office. You can see the ceiling is almost falling on your head. High walls of cubicles, darkness, and walls which were protecting the people behind, but also basically blocking people from communicating or talking to each other. Then this was an outcome of the workshop. We used Lego, and Lego was quite helpful, because as they didn't want to speak, we put together groups and asked them if they can't speak up, then they just make a picture of the situation, how it was before. And here you can see the king with the whip and his soldiers, and these are the employees bowing down. So it means one thing, of course, which you could also feel and sense was, but pictured then, we had kingdoms with strong hierarchical cultures in our company. We had silos also, as you could see here, the silo, don't come in mentality, don't bother me. We had lack of motivation. Clearly, nobody was actually laughing. It was actually, to me, coming from an almost startup company of battery testing, where we were very young people. I was the oldest, with at the time 42, and everybody else was just shortly after university. We had fun, we had laughings, and all of this. And I came into this very serious environment, quite shocked. And of course, I was coming from this entrepreneurial background, and this was completely missing. No new things tried out, everybody's doing their thing. So, not so enthusiastic. And then, of course, top secret, that's what I said maybe before, but lack of transparency is because people don't like to speak up. They don't want to talk about the things that are not so nice. So they rather hide them. And it works quite well for maybe a year, maybe two, maybe a few months. But one day, boom, it comes up. And then the damage is much larger. And so actually there was one project when I came where I was kind of curious, because it had a lot of revenue and a small team. And I just had the sense I didn't trust the results that they were producing. And when we looked into it, actually the progress in this project was much lower than they originally had communicated. And of course, going back is very difficult. So they tried to keep up this picture of everything is fine, but in the truth it wasn't. There's a big problem for a company, because you need to be open with your issues, in my mind. So what did we do? This is now some pictures of our new office. Okay, we have a table football. I like to do that because you can, get together with colleagues, have a little bit of competition. It also gets your mind away from the daily business. We have created an open atmosphere. As you can see, people are now talking. Actually, this is for folders and files, but you can also sit on it. So we made small meeting areas possible. We have also created some kind of lounges for our employees to talk to each other and have a coffee. And of course, you can see the view. I think it's important also to give some kind of width into your atmosphere. And we are lucky, of course, that we have a very high ceiling building there, because I think it creates this feeling of freedom and exploring. We have also brought in more cultural diversity. When I came, I was foreign employee number 2, okay? 450 Koreans. And I thought, I need some kind of, buddies also to bring in new ideas because I can't be everywhere. And I just wanted to break up this 100% Korean culture to engage some more foreigners. And we brought a Japanese colleague in. He looks Korean, he's actually Korean, but he actually has a Canadian background. And he was actually one of the key drivers, R&O, on bringing business development activities to life into South Korea. He's the creative mind, the unresting guy who looks for new ideas all the time. And he has now managed to actually, get other Korean colleagues into his mindset and group. So it's a very, very successful, expat coming to Korea. And then we have, of course, many, many Germans because we have our headquarter. And this helps us to better also communicate with our headquarter, to reach more understanding. Here are some results that came out of the business development team activities. We had a large MOU with Kartek and the province governor from Jeollanam province. Large projects. We have a new cooperation with Samsung Electronics in the LED segment, also very promising for us, and many, many more. I said at the beginning we had nothing, and now it's more actually that we are able to handle. So we now have to actually structure what do we do first. We also created a happy workplace task force team because one of the things, motivation, was a big issue in the company. And here, after 21 years of being in Korea, we celebrated our foundation for the first time. Yeah. And at the same time, we caught up and saying thanks to our long-term employees for the first time. Yeah. She almost is with us for 20 years, can you imagine? I think this was really necessary to change. And actually we were able, with the help of employees, by forming teams, to work on certain areas together and really get the things done. So almost all the things that we wrote on the checklist is now done. And we of course, not everything worked out perfectly, so now we reflect and we continue with phase 2. Women are actually one of the strong supporters for all these change and innovation projects. They seem to be less critical. They seem to get more about the spirit of what we want to achieve than some of my senior engineers. Yeah? So here, one of them, as I said, she was with us for 20 years. She has now a new role. She looks after quality control internally, and she does a great, fantastic job. She's also a change agent, I call her, because she delivers the new thinking to her colleagues. As you can see, this is me, but that's 2-3 years ago. So hopefully you can see that I have lost some weight. And this is Minji Kwon. She's one of our lead business developers. She's also very, very active. She never rests, and she always finds new ideas and new solutions. And they really pull us along, these power women. Yeah? Two more are sitting here, by the way. Okay, so conclusions. I think some cultural barriers in Korea are very, very difficult to overcome. Okay. I didn't think it would be so difficult, but until today we have not managed to really have this organization of inspiration, innovation and open communication that I would like to see. It is also difficult to work on something like change management, on creating a culture with new minds when you have a daily business to run. And I think this is one of my challenges, not to lose track and momentum, because it's very easy that a client calls you, a business conference comes up, and you, for 1 week or 2 weeks, you're not thinking about the organization anymore. So I can only encourage you, and you have this forum already, which is great. Just continue and do it regularly. Change management, on the other hand, is very motivating. When you see things to improve, you can really feel the positive energy that radiates from that. So I can only encourage you, even if it's not starting immediately, continue with your endeavors and have patience. It's about endurance and patience, that's clear. I think that's why this picture is quite well chosen. It's a marathon. It's not a 100 meters run. And setbacks, as I said before, are normal. I think you really have to realize that even if you fail with some of your initiatives, don't give up, you know. Not everything works, but learn from what has not worked and try again. And something also I have to admit, I was very ambitious 3 years ago, and not everything came to the truth that I wanted to have it. Some mistakes I made, and sometimes I overestimated, I think, also the readiness of the organization to change. But what really helped is to bring in new people with new thoughts. And I think that's what we're going to continue to do, and that's why also I want to encourage Korean students to go abroad, and vice versa, more Germans going abroad to really experience different cultures and ideas, because that will enrich us a lot. What's up for us? We have the change process. At the beginning, it was really shouldered on my shoulders, and I was completely alone, and it felt really, really heavy. And thanks God, I found some pioneers, you know, that have shouldered up with me and bear that huge weight of extra work and energy that we have to bring up. But it's not enough. So my idea is now to really win more people in the organization to work with us, and we have started new task force teams, and we enriched the people's body of really working on change with us. And I think this will further motivate more positive activities. One of the things I have started, because the lunches were too time consuming on one-on-ones, I'm now bringing people together on the same hierarchical level, very important, right? Same hierarchy, nobody too much above or too below. And with these groups, I'm just listening, and they just tell me anything they want. And we just record it anonymously. And we do this now with the whole organization, and afterwards we write together what we found and see what we can do with it. And interestingly enough, we started with the lower hierarchies first, and they came up with very, very good ideas, you know. And this tells also the story of, you know, your young employees, young staff, your students, actually, you know, just try to communicate with them and learn also what they have to say. Because you will find intriguing new insights when you do that. We will also initiate more cross-divisional work, which means get out of your silos, you know. Engineering department means other science departments. Engineering departments means the health department, because the technologies are coming together. This means we cannot live in our own silo for much longer without failing. And we will set up, therefore, this Digital Technologies Competence Center team to foster new innovation. We probably will start in the area of smart digital healthcare, because personally I like it, and we have a lot of good people globally working in this field. And I have also made some good new relationships in Korea that are promising. So I think this could be the birth of our Digital Technology Competence Center. You know, people from, as I said, you need to have software architects, you need to have big data analytics experts, you need to have software and hardware safety experts together with the subject matter experts. Whether it's medicine or automotive, autonomous driving, it doesn't matter. But intrinsically, these systems are very similar. And using smart technologies, artificial intelligence, they are interconnected, they exchange data, there are many systems working together. So there's not so much you know, difference when you look into the core issues that we have to resolve to make these successful. Okay, and then my last wish here is that I would like to cooperate more with Korean universities. Maybe with Korea University, hopefully. And I think we can explore new methods on building smart, agile, innovative companies. And we need some research. We can also do some, test pilots to initiate research, and methods to overcome our hurdles, our barriers. And we did the survey with you. You said that you think culture is not so much in our way. I personally think it's vice versa. It's completely in our way. And if we don't tackle this issue of culture, then we will have a much slower change than if we tackle it. Okay? So, 감사합니다.
Thank you for your wonderful talk.
Yeah.
He already said that 질문하세요.
질문하세요.
So,
But please answer in English.
it's time for question or comments. Anything will be welcome.
Thank you so much for a very informative talk. You gave a picture of workplace, very dark and dim. People don't talk to each other. But at the same time, we also have been told from many press coverages and others that Koreans are very innovative in many different ways, but especially in IT. Some of the information technology areas. And I also felt that if you go overseas and compare to ourselves, that we are pretty much open and innovative, was the way I kind of thought in my heart. But then I also sense, as you have described, that there is some disparity. So I'm just curious if you indeed do think that Koreans do face, challenges in being innovative, especially in workplaces like that, whether that should also be reflected upon us in return, and just maybe give us some suggestions.
Okay.
How we could improve?
It's a long question. Let's see whether I get it right. But first of all, you're right. Korea is very innovative. And I think what I also learned in my time now in 3 years here, it depends, right? It depends where you are, which company you are in, and which surrounding you have. I have met government agencies and government officials that were very innovative, and I also met the other sort, that were retroactive, status quo protecting, and basically securing their what they have, which is their right. You can call it good or bad. The question is, what do we need in an innovative surrounding? And that's when what we have to deal with is with technology and in technological innovations at TÜV Süd. Of course, we have also the classical area, but especially the future is what we are interested in, and I think that's an area where also Korea has already done a lot. But it can even get better, and I think this is where you are in direct competition, for example, with the Silicon Valleys of this world. And I think if you look at yourself, find your inner strength, which you certainly have. You don't need to copy, but you have to just compare what could work here in Korea and why certain things are not working in Korea as well. And then you will find answers. But of course, you're doing a much better job in many areas than, for example, we in Germany. So don't get me wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Any? Oh. Okay.
Thank you for your nice presentation. I'm John. I'm working in their research planning office. And in your presentation, you introduced the new technology field and the big data, especially big data. So, the certification is based on some regular and standard. And do you have any plan, or if you do something, can you give us a practical example for the real-time testing and certification process? Did you do any kind of effort for the international standard or your German standard?
We just founded our Center of Digital Competence in Singapore, and now we are also founding one in Munich, and I want to do the same here in the north, I call it, because Singapore from here is in the south. And I think we're just starting with what you're asking for, because so far there were not so many products and not so many applications that had to be certified. So the market was comparatively small, but now the market is becoming larger and larger, and it requires answers, and we don't have them yet, I must be honest, but we will work on it. And I think we have to work together with the governments, the regulation bodies, and also with the testing agencies and the producers of such technologies and the universities together to find ways, because how do you judge the quality and safety of an artificial intelligence algorithm? That's super difficult question, and we have to find answers on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually,
Just a quick question. You mentioned that you want to do some collaboration with universities. So can you share some of your thoughts how you collaborate with Korean University or other universities? Is it a technical sense, or you want to have some kind of other collaborations you have in mind?
I think one of them would be on cultural issues. So that's an area which is not so technical. It has to do with people. People are part of any business, and especially ours. We are not so much a production company than a services provider. So people for us is everything. And therefore, I have to work on people and people's groups and cultures. That's one area of collaboration. And we have, as we saw, many technical disciplines where we need to find answers for future issues or current issues. And here we can collaborate on high-tech issues like big data and artificial intelligence. We can also collaborate, for example, in more classical fields in the area of energy saving. That needs experts from engineering and thermodynamics to actually improve the efficiencies of the Korean industry in order to consume less and produce the same results. That's another area which we just started. Another area is the overall safety culture in Korea. We have initiated many pilot projects and also discussions with government and ministries about what can we do in Korea to become better. And that's also an interesting area which uses people and technology, because safety is a combination of everything, but people are in the center of it. So I think we have almost too many topics that we could start working on.
So cultural change is the main core theme.
Yeah. Well, cultural change or cultural challenges, I would say. Yeah? You don't necessarily need to change everything, but you have to overcome challenges, and therefore I think to work on it and to understand it better is an area where I'm highly interested personally, because I have these issues to work as the CEO to make my company more agile and to openly discuss issues so we can move on rather than hiding our issues. Thank you.
I just learned a lot from your your company cultures and the changing innovation and that kind of thing. It is very impressive, and I have to just take your lessons for my job. But in addition to that, I just want to ask, do you have, how much portion of your business is in Korea for R&D? I mean, you simply bring your technology from your home company to simply provide a service in Korea in terms of the test and that kind of things. For the collaboration, I'm very interested in this kind of developing new technology with the universities. So, we discussed a little bit on that issue, and IT and cybersecurity. He's the expert. Both of them, and we are very, very advanced. So, if you have some facility to develop and collaborate with the universities, and we can share our experts with you, but the Korea to South Korea simply provide your services and the business in that sense, then there are very limited area that we can cooperate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to know, in Korean branch, how much portion do you just share R&D activities with Korea University?
Yeah, you're on the spot with your analysis. I think you could see that many of our technologies are very old. They date back 150 years ago, and not much has changed. And of course, we explored and brought these systems and ways of certification to Korea, and most of them are based on work from previous engineers in Germany that we are just utilizing as like a commodity product. Yeah? But that's not enough anymore. And so this is why I'm also speaking to you to collaborate in new areas, because our company has to go for new things like cybersecurity. They have to look into this digital innovation. And this is where we are currently struggling. And we don't have a big R&D center even in Germany on this. That's why we just opened one up in Singapore. I've already talked to the Korean Labor Ministry about exchanging students into this new competence center from Korea over to Singapore to work there for a couple of years, then come back, and then also work with us on future products, because I really want to bring Korea forward in terms of innovation and producing actually new services that we can then exploit worldwide, but not, we will then export rather than import. So this is my vision and dream, and I think we have the right momentum and the right timing now to do this. And of course I need to convince my board, and I need to get funding and so on. But I think we will show a little success, and then we can ask for more. So we just have to start now. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe just time for one more question. Okay. Do you want? Okay.
Well, actually, it's not a question, but just to follow up with my question before. Was actually that was not the primary question. What I really was asking was some of the collaborations that we could do together. Just wanted to say that Koreans are much more innovative and adaptive, with much faster response. And so therefore, I think it would be much beneficial to anybody, including TÜV Süd, to be able to collaborate with Koreans per se, but also, especially with Korea University. And perhaps maybe one of the strategies might be maybe to have you as the entity in the middle and connect Korea University to the rest of, say, Europe or anywhere else that TÜV Süd is having a network in terms of business. But we are very much open. We do very well in terms of big data analytics. A lot of IT, especially all these machine intelligence areas, as well as some of the cyber security areas. So we're very much open, and also we do have sizable number of faculties and research crew here. I guess you were probably told we have roughly over 35,000 students, as well as 2,000 faculties. But primarily we also has established very recently this Big Data Institute. So I think that's going to be also one of the good vehicle for you. So we're ready to do our innovation.
Very good. I like to hear that. But you saw that we have 450 people, right, in TÜV Süd Korea. Sometimes 500, depends on the projects. 440 out of them are Koreans. And I wish they were all so agile and innovative that we just talked about. I think this is also one of the challenges. I think you have hubs where you have a concentration of smart, innovative, agile people. But they are in a way also small islands sometimes, yeah? So that we need to mix them with the rest of the Korean society, and that is also one of the challenges they have, because I want to also leverage what I have, you know. Some of our employees do a very, very good job, and they are traditionally very good in performing their work, but they are not so good in finding new answers. Yeah? And they are hardworking, and they are much more fast than, for example, some of our German colleagues. Yeah? That's what we are struggling also with. You know, when a Korean company asks us to provide a service, here in Korea they jump up and work. In Germany, oh, the weekend is coming up, you know. I maybe look at this on Monday, and then maybe Monday afternoon after I had my coffee. So this kind of cultural issues we have internally already. And you are fully right, Korea is much more faster and demanding than our headquarters is used to dealing with. And I hope I can also, you know, bring over that spirit again, that they start to rethink, you know, can we sit so and have a coffee, or should we rather think about, you know, doing a good job for our clients? So, but of course, I know that in digital innovation and also in IT security, you're one of the leading nations, and that's exactly what I want to log on, basically to connect, because this is also necessary in Europe, and I think this way we can spread, you know, Korean technology, Korean know-how, and also spirits and culture over to mainland Europe. But we need to start somewhere, and maybe we start with our company, because it's networked into, because of the universe of our you know, clients is from medical healthcare production companies up to nuclear power plants, from food testing over to, you name it, elevator and car inspection, and automotive industry. So we have basically the whole wealth of German technology and German enterprises in our portfolio of companies that we work with. So that, I think, is a good starting point. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You may find out that we are eager to do some collaboration with TubeSud. So
thank you so much. Yeah,
okay.
It was a pleasure.
And anyway, thank you for sharing great experience on the innovation and some change in the TubeSud that helped for us. And looks like it's time for conclude this forum due to time limit. Please give him a big hand again.
Thank you. Thank you.